What's up? Ghost Fictions is here, and we're back again. This is the part 1 of a story where Issei left and become the Crimson Dragon god of Shinigami. When Issei fails to call Rias by her name, everyone in the orc starts to gang up on Issei, while Issei, being confused on what he did wrong, starts to break down in tears on why his so-called friends don't tell him what he did wrong, as well don't understand his feelings. Issei becomes so depressed and heartbroken that he almost enters the Juggernaut drive, but luckily Ddraig intervenes and offers Issei a solution to help his partner and friend, in which Issei accepts. Which was to open the dragon gate to another world, with Issei having his memories sealed, but what they didn't expect was that the world they landed in were filled with corrupted souls known as hollows, and beings called Shinigami, soul reapers, and on top of it, Issei turned into a kid. How will the Red Dragon Emperor survive in this world, and will he be the same when returning? But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Don't forget to check the description for more information. Now, let's get into part 1. Guo Academy, Orc Room. 3rd POV. We currently see the orc getting things ready for the school festival, all the while getting ready for the raiding game against Ddraig and his peerage. Rias was currently doing paperwork for orc, while each members of both Rias' peerage except for Roswas, since her and Azazel had to perform their duties as teachers as well as Arena, doing various tasks for the club's upcoming haunted house, though Issei was still a bit concerned in the back of his mind since the other night Rias acted strangely with him in the sauna when he called President. The part of hope that once the raiding game with Ddraig was finished, he could possibly talk to her about what was going on with her. Everything was going well until Ravel's mother contacted her and wanted to speak with Issei about what he thought about Ravel, in which Issei said that he would promise to always look after her and protect her as well, which caused Rias to frown. When the call ended, Rias began to walk away a bit. Issei noticed and worried for his king to decide if he could do anything to help her. Issei. Concerned President, are you alright? Rias. Worried Issei, I need to know. What am I to you? It was then that eyes were unknowingly on Issei, and wondering how he would respond, Issei was both confused and for some reason nervous, since he didn't know how to respond to such a question, because even though he did admire Rias and possibly have feelings for her, he told himself that he wasn't good enough since he was simply a low-ranked devil, and she was not only a high-class devil, but also an heiress to one of the most well-renowned houses in the underworld, and Issei felt like he would never be good enough for her. Also, a part of him was afraid that if he tried to tell her and the rest of the girls in the orc his true feelings, he would be rejected and be berated like his last girlfriend. Inside the boosted gear, the Welsh dragon Ddraig was secretly listening to this since he felt his host emotions stirring up in a bad way and wanted to make sure he didn't go into the Juggernaut drive again, though what he was about to witness was going to prove the theory right. Issei. Confused, what are you saying? President is president. Rias. Shocked Issei, you jerk. It was the Rias storm out of the room with tears running down her face, leaving Issei confused on why she acted like that. It was then Asia then tried to go after Rias, but not without telling Issei something. Asia. Concerned Rias, wait. Turns to Issei, Ice, how could you? Issei, mind. Scared, what did I do? Tiba. Disappointed even by your standards, that was way oblivious. Issei. Confused, what, I don't get it. What did I do? Tiba. Disappointed, if you don't get it then honestly you're beyond help. Akeno. Serious, honestly no one should have to explain it to you at this point. Issei, mind. Scared, you too Akeno. Please just tell me what I did wrong and I can fix it. Ddraig, mind. Growls in annoyance, you stupid bitches, do any of you have any idea what you're doing to him? After everything he has done for you, none of you have even bothered to maybe help with his problems. Zenobia. Disappointed, geez Issei, even though I'm clueless to these sorts of things, even I know what you did was wrong. Arena. Disappointed, honestly Issei, you are seriously the dumbest guy ever. Kaneko. Disappointed, you're the worst. Issei, mind. Scared, why are you all saying these things to me? What did I do wrong? Why does it feel like when I was with her again? Don't you understand how I feel, what I have been through? Issei then tries to leave only for Akeno to stop him and tell him that if he went after Rias now without knowing what he did wrong, then he would end up making it worse. Still not understanding what he did wrong, he turned to his cowhide Gasper to please tell him if he was truly the worst. Issei. Concerned Gasper, tell me, am I really the worst? Gasper. Nervous, well actually yeah, you kind of are Issei senpai. Issei then felt even more low and depressed since if his crossing-dressing cowhide who was still scared of his own shadow, then did Issei really do something wrong? But he still didn't know what he did and was beginning to get more and more scared and confused on why essentially everyone was ganging up on them. Ravel. Nervous, I'm sorry, this all happened because my mother called, isn't it? Akeno. Smiles, it's not your fault Ravel. If anyone is to blame it's Issei since he never truly thought the between Rias and himself until now. Issei, mind. Scared, how am I the one at fault? Why won't you just tell me what I did wrong? I thought I was your guy's friend. Why is this happening to me again? As all of this was going, Ddraig was absolutely furious at everyone in the orc. None of them had taken into account his host feelings, and after everything he had done for them. It was then everyone left the room while telling Issei what he did wrong and fix it. Once the doors behind him closed, Issei instantly fell on his knees and began to cry on why everyone was ganging up on him. As if Draig's worst fears came to life, he noticed how the previous hosts of the boosted gear were trying to reach Issei and get him to use the Juggernaut drive. It was then Ddraig revealed himself in hopes he can calm his partner down. Ddraig. Worried partner, you need to calm down. Issei. Crying Ddraig, please tell me, am I really the worst? Ddraig. Serious, no you're not, it's those dumbasses' fault for not understanding you, especially the Gremory girl. Issei. Crying, then why did they say all those things to me, Ddraig? Don't they understand how I feel? It's like with Raynor all over again. Ddraig, it's hurt so much, and I don't want to feel this anymore. Please Ddraig, help me, there's got to be a way for me not to feel this way anymore. Ddraig was honestly heartbroken to see his host like this, since even though he was kind of a huge perv, he was still a good person and treated him like a real partner, unlike his other hosts. Ddraig also knew what Issei, his fear of confessing to women and being ultimately rejected, especially after what happened with the fallen angel Raynor, which got him more angry with girls that were there when all of this happened, since they should have seen this from a mile away, but they just thought by showing Issei their naked bodies and pressing them against him, that would solve everything. But Ddraig could only think of one thing that could help the host for the time being, even if it meant that both him and Issei may never return to this universe, as well as maybe saying goodbye to his rivalry with Albion. Ddraig. Serious partner, there is a way for me to help you, though it may be risky, and I genuinely don't know how long it will last. But if we open a dragon gate, it can take us anywhere in this world, it can even take us to another universe if we want to, and I can seal away your memories of all this until you are ready. But in order for us to make the gate appear, you will have to give up the rest of your body to me, in order for us to have the necessary power to do so. Issei. Crying, do it Ddraig please, I don't want to feel this pain anymore. But that Ddraig got work on turning Issei into a half-dragon so that they could reach the appropriate level power, along with a few boosts to summon the dragon gate, while also writing a letter to the orc saying what they were about to do and may never return. Time skipped 2 hours later. Rias and her peerage, except Roswas and Arena, were on their way back to the orc clubroom after the incident that Issei caused, and they were hoping that he wasn't still there unless he finally realized what he did was wrong. They were approaching the school building until they felt a huge energy spike coming from the club room, and the worst part was that the energy signature came from Issei. Knowing this, everyone rushed over to the source of the energy spike, but by the time they reached the club room, it was gone along with Issei. Rias. Shocked, what just happened? Where's Issei? Azazel. Serious, he's gone. Everyone. Surprised, huh? It was then everyone turned around to see the Governor General of the Fallen Angels Azazel with his back in the corner with a disappointed expression on his face. Rias. Confused, what do you mean gone? Azazel. Serious, meaning that he left, not just the club room but from this world. Everyone in the orc was shocked at this news, especially Rias, since they wondered what would cause her beloved pawn to want to leave this world. Akeno. Serious, what do you mean he left this world? How do you know that? Azazel. Serious, because before Issei left, Ddraig sent a message to Fafnir on what happened and why. If I'm being honest, I don't blame Issei for wanting to leave after all of you ganging up on him like that. This shocked everyone to their core, since they couldn't believe that it was their fault for Issei leaving this dimension. Rias. Confused, what do you mean it was our fault for making him want to leave this dimension? Asia. Confused, Rias is right, besides it was Issei-san's fault for not understanding Rias-san's feelings. Azazel. Annoyed, all of you girls are honestly idiots, you all say you want to have a relationship with him, but none have any clue what it's truly like to be in one. Everyone. Confused, huh? Azazel. Annoyed, in relationships communicating one's feelings works both ways, you idiots, none of you have even tried to see how Issei feels or help him deal with any of his own demons. I'm more disappointed in you two, Kiba Gasper, as fellow men you should have at least seen this coming and maybe help him out, but no, you just left him fend for himself against a pack of angry wolves. Serious, did you know that Issei has PTSD? He is literally afraid of women, or to be precise, he confesses his love for another woman. Ever since he was a kid, his parents always neglected him, and as such he did everything he could to get their attention, even becoming an absolute pervert. He didn't care if he got in trouble, since he was finally getting the attention that he wanted from his parents. This shocked everyone beyond belief, since no one would ever know that local perv was afraid of girls, despite always trying to peek on the kendo club, as well as ogling the female members of the orc, especially Rias and Akeno. They were even more surprised when they found out that Issei was actually neglected. Now that they think about it, his parents always seemed to fawn over Asia more, as well as the other girls more than Issei. It was then Akeno spoke up about her concern about this. Akeno. Concerned now that I think about it every time any of the girls try to get closer or be intimate with Ice, I always see this deep look of fear in his eyes, as if he was scared of us. Kaneko. Concern, yeah, even during our sage healing sessions, I always sense some form of uncomfortableness as well, a deep fear that he would try to hide. Rias. Confused, but why? He always talks about wanting to be the harem king, and how is he supposed to do that when he's afraid to talk to girls? Azazel. Serious, I'll tell you, how about you all think back to how Issei became a devil? It was then the girls started to think what Azazel said, but was ultimately confused on what in Issei becoming a devil made him afraid of women. It wasn't until Asia finally figured it out, which made her extremely guilty about what she said to Issei and made look like the biggest idiot in the room. Asia. Horrified Rainer. Everyone. Shocked, huh? Asia. Sad, and I still has Rainer in his heart. It was then Rias, Akimo, Kiba, and Kaneko finally understood what Azazel meant now. When Issei died and became a devil, his heart was broken by his first girlfriend Yuma, who turned out to be a fallen angel in disguise named Rainer. All four of them felt horrible after everything Issei has done for them. They didn't think to ask about what he was doing. Irina. Confused, who's Rainer? Akeno. Sad, and he was Issei's first girlfriend, and in the end she killed him, all while telling him that he was worthless and didn't deserve to be loved by anyone. That was when Irina, Zenobia, Ravel, and Gasper were all shocked by what Issei has gone through, and all of them began to deeply regret what they said to them. Irina was the most devastated since she was his childhood friend, and all she did was hurt him even, and here she thought she would be his guardian angel. She was honestly shocked that she hasn't fallen yet. Then there was Kiba, who felt like a true complete ass since Azazel was right as a fellow guy. He should have helped Issei try to understand Ria's feelings, and he called himself a brother to Issei, and after he risked his life in order to help him get over his past and the Holy Sword project, he made a promise that he would do everything he can to make sure he can earn Issei's forgiveness. It was then Rias saw the letter that Ddraig left for them, in which she began to read off what it said. Dear Orc or any of the faction leaders. This letter is from Ddraig the Welsh dragon, and I'm writing this letter because both me and my host Issei Haidu will be leaving this universe, since the people in Rias Grimory's peerage, as well as people in the Orc, have not bothered to take my partner's emotions into consideration, just because my host didn't want to say the Grimory heiress by her name. My host has stuck his neck out for everyone in the Orc, all while trying to get past his own traumas, and what does he get in return? He berated and talked down to the people who were supposed to love him and treat him as a second family. Don't even bother trying to look for us, we will return, and when we feel like it, or maybe never at all. It will depend on Issei to decide that, as well as forgive the females in the Grimory peerage, as well as the Angel of Michiel. Until further notice, tell both Albion and his host that our rivalry is over. Everyone was heartbroken that Issei truly left them and that he may never return. Poor Rias was essentially about to break into tears, since this was her fault for him leaving. If only she knew that the man she loved, who gave up his arm so that she could be free from arranged marriage, who had helped each and every one of her peerage members get over their past so they could move forward, who risked his life over and over again for their safety and well-being, who was always smiling when things were at their darkest, was actually hiding a deep pain down inside. Rias, along with the other girls except for Ravel, felt like they failed as both possible lovers as well peerage members. They wanted to see Issei again and hopefully apologize for what they said, and maybe hopefully remend their relationship with him. Rias was brought out of her sadness when she noticed Azazel was leaving. Rias. Serious, where are you going? Azazel. Serious, well, I gotta tell the leaders of the Alliance that we won't have the Red Dragon Emperor's help for a little while. Zenobia. Serious, you're acting like he will actually come back. Azazel. Serious, well, unlike the rest of you, I know that Issei will come back one way or another, because he isn't the type of guy to abandon everyone. If I were you, I would hope or pray that maybe Issei can forgive most of you for what you've done. Rias. Sad, and Azazel is right, everyone, so that's why when Issei gets back we need to do everything we can to make sure to earn his forgiveness, and that we were wrong for ignoring his feelings. Everyone except Azazel. Nods right. Azazel, mind. Sighs, I know Issei will eventually forgive them, since he isn't the type of guy to hold a grudge like that, especially over something small like that. The question is if he is actually willing to go back to them like before. I know Surziches will be pretty devastated if he somehow lost his soon-to-be adopted little brother because his little sister was being a spoiled brat. But I digress. I know Issei will forgive them, but it won't be the same as before. I hope you get the help you need and come back soon. Meanwhile, in another universe. Karakura Town, Urahara shop. It was evening in Karakura Town, and all things were nice and peaceful in a rundown shop known as Uraha shop. The shop is owned by a light blonde hair man named Kisuke Urahara. He was currently having a nice meal with his friend and associate Issei Tsukubishi until they both felt something off in the distance. Kisuke. Shocked. What was that? Issei. Shocked. I don't know, but the amount of power behind it is almost equivalent to Captain Class. But before any of them could think of trying to investigate in what causing this strange energy, inside Kisuke's vault light a bluish-purple orb. This orb was known as the Hejoku, and it also sensed the energy that was coming from across town and was curious of the being that was causing it. It was then that Hejoku broke out of Kisuke's vault to look for the being that caused that huge wave of power, which greatly affected both Kisuke and Issei. Kisuke. Shocked. The Hejoku. Issei. Shocked. Do you know why it could be acting this way? Kisuke. Worried. It probably reacted to that energy that just showed up. Come on, if Aizen finds out that it's out, that the Hejoku is out and about, we're screwed. Scene change. Burakura Town, Park. Lying on the grass we a small boy with crimson blood red hair lying on the grass unconscious. The boy looked to be no more than 9 years old and wore a black blazer while wearing a red t-shirt underneath his open dress shirt and blazer, and wears blue and white sneakers, long sleeve dress shirt with black highlights with a black ribbon on the collar, matching black pants. This was Issei Haidu, or just Issei, since just after finally opening the Dragon's Gate and entering a new world, Ddraig got to work on putting the seals on his memories, though there had seemed to be a side effect when Issei crossed over, in which for some reason became a kid again. Though Ddraig ultimately decided that it was probably for the best, since that way, it would give some extra years to train his body properly so that his host could defend himself while in this new world, as well as helping him be as strong as possible for when they decided to finally return back to their original universe. Ddraig was about to wake up his partner to tell him his situation of the moment until he noticed a floating orb that, brimming with power, was on top of his host. This was the Hejoku that finally arrived to the source of that huge energy wave. The Hejoku didn't think much of the boy that at first, but saw potential in him that may make him worthy, so the Hejoku decided to give the young dragon devil hybrid the powers of a soul reaper and a hollow in hopes that it will hopefully one day make it that this boy would be worthy of being its master or not. It was then a bright light from the Hejoku engulfed Issei, which caught the attention of an orange-haired woman walking along with her child and decided to see what was going on. All the while Ddraig was confused on what was this orb doing to its host. He noticed how the usual mindscape started to change from a world filled fire to being in space, and in the center, a fiery nebula that seemed to be brimming with power. Ddraig also noticed how new two energy sources were being manifested inside his host, which one of them seemed dark, almost similar to his demonic energy, but stronger, while the other seemed pure and almost similar to Senjutsu. Ddraig then notices how something was being born from parts of those two energies. Ddraig decided to keep an eye on it and hopes it doesn't interrupt Draig's plans in keeping the seals on Issei's memories intact. When the Hejoku was done, it decided to return to Kisuke and see what this boy does in the future. When Ddraig noticed that it was gone, he decided that it was time to wake up his partner. Ddraig. Serious. Hey partner, wake up. Issei. Groggy. Ddraig, is that you? Ddraig. Serious. It's me, partner, how are you feeling? Issei. Groggy. Weird, but where are we? Ddraig. Serious. I don't know, partner, but we should probably get out of here before someone comes around and starts asking questions. Also, it's probably best that we stick to mental links for the time being so that we don't draw too much attention to ourselves. Issei. Smiles. Okay Ddraig, I trust you. It was then the young redhead decided to get up and walk away the area. He begins to ask Ddraig on why he doesn't remember anything besides his name and his sacred gear, in which Ddraig said that came from somewhere far away and had opened the Dragon's Gate to get here, and the memory loss was a side effect from crossing the gate prematurely. Ddraig then explains to him that he is about 80% dragon and 20% devil, which Issei nodded at that, and that it was best that no one knows exactly what they are for the time being until they understand the nature of this world. Issei was then brought out of his thoughts when a woman of average height. She had fair skin and long, light, wavy brown hair down to her back, which she usually had tied in a knot in the back and bangs down to her chin in the front. With her was a young boy around Issei's age, or at least a year younger. He had orange spiky hair and brown eyes. The woman had a worried and confused expression on her face on why a boy around her son's age was doing here at the park all alone at this time. Confused. Excuse me little boy, what happened with that bright light a few minutes ago? Issei. Confused. What light? Shocked. You didn't see the bright light that came from here? Issei. Nods. No, I honestly just woke up a minute ago. Mind? Curious. This boy has a lot of spirit energy for such a young age. Is he possibly a descendant of a Soul Reaper family? Curious. What is your name, little boy? Issei. Nervous. Ddraig. Serious. It's okay, partner, you can tell her your name. Issei. Mind? Curious. Are you sure, Ddraig? Ddraig. Smiles yes, I don't sense hostility or deceit from this woman, you can trust her to an extent. Issei, mind. Nervous okay Ddraig if you say so. Issei. Nervous my name is Issei. Smiles well Issei can you tell why you are out here all by yourself? Where are your parents? Issei. Sad and I don't know, I can't remember anything besides my name. For some reason I just woke up in this park with no clue who I am. This saddened the poor woman since she could tell he was telling the truth. She thought it was best to maybe take him to the police station and see if they could maybe figure out who is, but at the same time she felt like it would be a dead end since she could tell that this boy was not human and the amount of spirit energy he had would no doubt cause him problems in the long run. Smiles well Issei, how about you come with us? Issei. Nervous while nodding no that's okay I don't want to bother you and I don't even know your name. I'll just head into the forest and make a camp for myself. Smiles nonsense, as a mother I can't in good conscience let a little boy like you be left alone like this. My name Misaki Kurosaki and this boy here is my son Ichigo. Ichigo. Smiles hello. Issei. Smiles nervously hello, but still I don't want to be a burden to you or your family, I mean we just met. Misaki. Smiles nonsense you will not be a burden to us. Issei. Nervous but. Ddraig. Serious go with her partner. Issei, mind. Confused are you sure Ddraig? Ddraig. Smiles yes, I can sense that this woman here truly wants to help you partner, just don't reveal your race to her, and you should be fine. Issei, mind. Nervous okay Ddraig, I trust you. Issei. Nervous as long I'm not a burden to you. Misaki. Smiles you won't come along with us Issei. Issei. Nervous okay. Meanwhile at Urahara's shop. Both Kisuke and Tessai were about to search the entire city to go search for the Hejoku, when all of a sudden the orb that were about to go seek miraculously returned to them. Both Kisuke and Tessai were completely confused on why the Hejoku decided to come back to them, but didn't question it, since they would hope that Aizen didn't pick up the Hejoku's energy signature. But there was one thing that was going through Kisuke's mind. Kisuke, mind. Curious what did you do, Hejoku? Back with Issei. Issei was following both Misaki and Ichigo nervously, since he wasn't entirely sure if he should be around these people, sure they seem nice, but he didn't want to end up burdening them. Ddraig said that everything should be alright, but he had to rest since using the Dragon Gate took a lot out of him, but he should be able to talk again once he goes to sleep later on. But in reality Ddraig wanted to see the thing that his partner somehow gave birth to. He sensed that the being had a lot of power within it, and whatever that orb did to his host, it somehow made him a lot stronger than before, but he quickly had to seal a majority of the power, since his host wasn't strong enough to handle it yet, in which he made a mental note to start training Issei, so that he could handle the new overwhelming power that he has been given. On the way towards Misaki and Ichigo's home Issei began to notice the spirit of deceased souls. He decided to ignore them, since he didn't want to freak out the kind people that were willing to help, but Misaki noticed it. Misaki, mind. Serious he can already see spiritual beings, but he's trying to keep it discreet so that I and Ichigo don't see him differently. He probably thinks he might be the only person on the planet that can see spirits. Sad and poor boy, not knowing who he is and being able to see dead spirits and is all alone. Maybe if I'm lucky I can hopefully convince Issei to let us stay with us or maybe even adopt him. Even though I can't tell exactly what he is, I can tell that he is innocent. After a few minutes the three of them made it to a 2-stories home, which also seemed to also function as a clinic. When Misaki, Ichigo, and Issei entered the house they were greeted by a tall, muscular man with spiky black hair and brown eyes. He has thin facial hair around his mouth and on his cheeks. He wears a white lab coat over his otherwise more casual shirt and trousers. He has the appearance of a man in 40s. He was also surprised at why his wife brought a red boy with red eyes, who he can tell had a lot of spirit energy for his age, as well him being not human. He made a mental note to ask his wife why she brought home this boy with her and his son. Smiles hello dear, you sure came back home a bit late. Misaki. Smiles sorry honey, but as you can see I ran into a little situation, go on introduce yourself. Issei. Nervously bows my name is Issei, I sadly don't have any memories of who I am, thank you for letting me into your home, and I hope to not be a bother. Mind. Curious I don't sense any form of deceit or foul play with this boy seems to be telling the truth, but that doesn't explain the high amount of spirit energy that he has as well as this other power I'm sensing inside of him. It's like he has another soul living inside of him not like his Zanpakuto, but similar in nature. I could also tell that he's nearly awakening his own Soul Reaper powers at such a young age, which is practically unheard of. I should take him to Kisuke to see what he makes of this. It could be another of Aizen's experiments gone rogue, and he doesn't know who or what he is. Smiles there's no need to be nervous Issei, my name is Issei Kurosaki, and you've already met my wife and son Misaki and Ichigo. Now then relax, we're about to have dinner. Ichigo shows Issei to the dinner table. Will you? Ichigo smiles. Okay, come on Issei. Issei nervous. Okay. It was then Issei went to the dinner table and sat next to Ichigo along with two girls that seemed to be a few younger than Ichigo, which Issei made the deduction of as their Ichigo's younger sisters. Issei was pretty nervous since he was in all technicality inside a stranger's home, and with Ddraig sleeping, he felt that anything could say or do would make the family hate him or even try to kill him. Ichigo somewhat seeing this, he decided to help Issei ease his stress. Ichigo smiled. So Issei, how are your hair and eyes red? They look so cool. Issei nervous. I don't know, really. When I woke up I just looked like this and I still don't know anything about myself. Ichigo smiles. Well, I'm sure you'll get it eventually, just be patient, that's what my mom always says. Issei smiles weakly. Your mom seems to know what she's doing then. Meanwhile with Issei and Misaki. Issei serious, are you sure it was alright to bring that kid here? Misaki nods. Yes, call it woman or mother's intuition, but I didn't sense an evil bone or any form of deceit coming from that boy. Sad, and you should have seen that boy when I found him. He was scared and confused. He tried denying to come with us cause he didn't want to be considered a burden. He was gonna just live in the forest and live off of it. I couldn't let that happen with good conscience whether he's human or not. Issei sighs. Well, I don't sense any form of ill intent or foul play from him, but I can't get rid of this feeling that he's not telling us the whole truth. Misaki sad, and I'm not surprised by that. Think about it, to him we're complete strangers and probably think that we don't know that he's not human. If he did, he would think that see him as a freak or an abomination of some sort. For now let him have his privacy, and in time maybe he'll open up to us. Issei raises an eyebrow. You're acting like he's gonna live with us. Misaki serious. Issei, that boy has nowhere else to go, and it's not like we can take him to the police. It would be a dead end since he's not human, and we also can't leave him to fend for himself. With the amount of spirit energy that he's leaking out, the hollows will eat him up for sure. Issei sighs. I guess you're right, but I could sense that he might be a soul reaper since I could sense his powers about to awaken. So I'll make a plan to take him to Urahara in the near future so that maybe he could learn how to control his powers and maybe figure out who or what he is. Misaki smiles. Thank you Issei. Giggles. Who knows, maybe Ichigo might have an older brother to play with. Scene change. Issei's mindscape 2 hours later. Dinner for Issei and the Kurosaki family went okay for the most part, and when it was done, he tried to leave, saying that he felt like he overstayed his welcome. But Misaki and Issei said that he would be staying here since it was far too late for a little boy to be out at night. He tried to politely refuse, but Ichigo, who seemed to have grown an attachment towards Issei, begged him to stay. Issei, seeing no other way, thanked the Kurosaki family for allowing to stay here for the night. They showed Issei to the guest room, as well as where the bathroom was. Issei then politely and quickly went to bed, but not before looking at himself in the mirror. He was curious on why both his hair and eyes were blood red, and for some reason whenever he looked at his hair, the name Rias came to his mind, which made Ddraig panic a bit since he didn't expect the seal on his memories to be leaking so soon. But in the end Issei just shrugged it off and decided to head to bed to go inside his mindscape and check on Ddraig. But when he arrived he noticed that his mindscape was different. Instead of being a world made out of fire, he was in space, and at the center seemed to be a galaxy made out of fire. He was wondering what happened to his mindscape until he saw the mighty red dragon, and was relieved that he could see a familiar face, since he has no memory of who he is, but the one of the few things that he did, remembered that Ddraig was his partner, and could always trust him when it came to advice or just someone to talk to. Issei smiles. Hey Ddraig, how are you feeling? Ddraig smiles. I'm doing fine, partner, though I'm still weak from using the gate. I have just enough energy to at least know how you are doing as well as tell you a few things that happened to you when you woke up. But first, how did it go after I left you? Issei nervous. I went okay I guess. I still feel that I should not stay here because not only I feel like a burden to them, but if the off chance that they figure out what I am, they'll end up hating me or maybe even try to kill me. Ddraig serious. Well, as long as they don't find out what you are exactly, then you should be okay, but I think they already know that you're not human. Issei worried. What do you mean? Ddraig serious. Before I left you to rest I noticed how Misaki had an abundance of an energy that you now possess, and Ichigo has quite a bit as well, but it seems his powers are sealed, making me assume that his parents want to make sure he doesn't discover his heritage until the time is right. Right now, I can see that the father of this family has quite a bit of it, and from what I can tell both him and Misaki will probably keep an eye on you. Issei scared. What should I do, Ddraig? Should I sneak out? Ddraig sighs. Relax, if they wanted to do something to you they would have done it by now, meaning that they could probably tell that you're innocent in all this, and will most likely let you stay here with them for the time being. But back to the matter at hand, it's about this new energy that you somehow acquired when you arrived here. It was then Ddraig explained to Issei the nature of the two energies that were growing inside Issei, but told him that because it was too much for his body, he had to seal away a decent majority until Issei's body could handle it. That was when Ddraig told Issei that while in the mindscape as well as in the real world when he had time to spare, he would be training him not only his body, so that it could hold this new source of power that he has, but also hopefully learn to control it. Their thoughts were interrupted when both of them sensed a new presence entering the mindscape which confused Issei greatly, since no one besides him or Ddraig could enter it, though Ddraig knew exactly who or what had entered his partner's mindscape, since it was his host who essentially manifested this being from the new power he acquired from that strange orb. The person was a tall handsome young man with snow-white hair slicked back, he had blood-red eyes similar to Issei, but his sclera was pitch black. He wore a long black coat with red outlines on it, and underneath it, he was wearing a black sleeveless zippered turtleneck beneath his midnight blue formal vest. He also wears charcoal gray fingerless gloves, black pants, and black combat boots. The man in front of him radiated power and discipline, but was also rebellious in it, despite his scary appearance due to his eyes. Issei didn't feel scared around him, in fact he felt extremely calm around this person. The man looked at the dragon and then at Issei, who only smirked since he was the one who brought him to life, and he could tell the amount of power and potential that his master has in him, but was somewhat concerned about the seals that were placed on him. He made a mental note to speak with the red dragon when they were alone. But for now he wanted to introduce himself to both his master partner that he would spend the rest of his life with. Smirk, so you are the one who brought me to life as well, my partner, from this day forward. Must say you have a lot of potential in you, and I'm excited to be by your side for the rest of your life. Issei. Confused, who are you? Ddraig, do you have any idea? Ddraig. Serious, yes, I forgot to mention I told you how the nature of your energy seemed to be unique. Well, it seems when you acquired it, a part of it began forming a being of its own from parts of your own soul as well. This man in front of you is the manifestation of this new power you acquired. Serious, it's called spirit energy. Issei. Ddraig. Curious, spirit energy. Nods, otherwise known as Riryoku, is a power aligned with the spiritual sensitivity and willpower of the user. Every spiritual being and every human has a certain amount of Riryoku. If this amount is higher than a certain degree, it grants the person superhuman abilities. Those with such an above average level of Riryoku are very rare among living humans. The most basic ability that humans with a higher level of Riryoku have is the ability to see ghosts. Your partner has quite the abundance of it, and even more that is currently being sealed, and since you two don't seem to know about the powers that dwelling within you, allow me to explain. It was then the mysterious man began explaining the nature of spirit energy and its properties. When Issei and Ddraig asked on how does he know all this, he said that it was complicated to explain, in which the closest answer he could provide is that every soul has this information when they are born, but it is locked until the bearer of said soul dies and moves to the afterlife. Ddraig was definitely both curious and interested in the nature of this power, since if his host could learn how to harness and control this power, then his host could definitely be on par with the higher levels, beings of the top 10 strongest in their world, and maybe even surpass him in his prime, which made him have a savage grin on his face, since if they ever returned back to their world then couldn't wait to rub his new and improved host in Albion's face. He inwardly chuckled at the thought of his host slapping around Albion's host like a rag doll. The mysterious man then explained the types of spiritual beings that reside in this world. There were souls, which were people whose spirits have not been able to cross over to the afterlife. The second were known as Shinigami or soul reapers, whose jobs are to help the lost souls enter their respected afterlife, as well as fighting off the hollows. The man then finally explained that hollows are souls that have stayed inside the human world for too long and end up losing their hearts due to despair or regret, and that souls that turn into hollows end up having a sensation of eating other souls. The man ends it with that Issei somehow has both Soul Reaper and Hollow powers, which confused Issei greatly, but he made a theory that the reason why he may have Hollow powers is cause of his demon portion. The man then tells Issei that he is Issei's Zanpakuto, which is a Soul Reaper's main weapon against the Hollows, and that was his spirit form. Issei. Serious, I see. In that case, what is your name? Smirks, you already know my name. Issei. Confused, huh? I do. But I can't even remember my past, let alone your name. Smirks, look into my eyes and you'll know what my name is, and once you do you can call upon my power whenever you wish. Issei. Curious, okay. It was then Issei started staring into the mysterious man's eyes, his crimson red looking at his blood red. As Issei kept on staring at the man's eyes, and despite his eyes being halophid and pretty, he felt such a familiar feeling within him, the feeling of loneliness, as well as the desire to be loved and protected, but he also sensed the desire to become stronger. Stronger than anyone else so that he wouldn't be weak ever again, as well as making sure that those he cherished are always protected. After a few moments Issei closed his eyes, letting the white-haired man smirk, since he could tell that Issei figured out his name. Smirk, so you figured it out? Issei smiles fondly. Yes, it's good to finally meet you. Yamato smiles. It's good to finally meet you, Issei. It was then a bright red light formed around Issei's hand, and out came a sheathed katana, the sheath black and the design of a red eastern dragon spiraling around it. When Issei removed the blade from its sheath, it couldn't help but stare at awe of the beauty of the blade that was in his hands. The blade itself was blood red with a black marking near the guard gold with black accents. The handle of the blade was white with a tinge of red near the guard, and the pommel had seemed to have a white flower petal, with red tints on the top, almost representing if the pommel was on fire. Issei in awe. Wow Yamato, your blade looks awesome. Yamato chuckles. Yes it is, and in time I will teach you on how to properly use it, as well some techniques that can help you utilize your new spirit energy a lot better. Issei smiles. Thank you, I'm excited for our new partnership Yamato. Yamato smirks. As am I, but be warned, this training will not be easy. Issei smirks. I'll take it, because I'll be the strongest, just you wait. It was then bright then appeared above all of three, signaling it was Issei's time to wake up, but Yamato told him that now he knows his name they can communicate mentally like he does Ddraig, in which Issei nodded and told them that they'll talk later. Once Issei was gone, Yamato then stared at the red dragon to ask him what was bothering him. Yamato serious. Oh red dragon, care to explain the seals you placed on our partner's memories? Ddraig serious. Before you start trying to fight me, I want you to know that he asked me to seal away his memories, since before this he was in great pain. If I didn't seal them away he would have ended up destroying everything he holds dear. Yamato serious. Show me these memories that you are keeping from him. Ddraig serious. Only if you promise not to reveal them to Issei until he is ready. This could affect my partner's chance of having a semi-peaceful life without his past haunting him. Yamato serious. Very well then, if it's for our host's well-being I will oblige. Ddraig serious. Thank you. Karakura Town, Forest. 1 month later. Birdpav. It's been a little bit over a month since Issei started staying with the Kurosaki family, when both Issei and Masaki tried to see if they could find out who Issei's family was, or figure out where he was from. The Kurosaki couple decided to adopt the young redheaded boy, which brought a lot of joy to Ichigo, since he thought he got himself an older brother to play with. Issei was a bit surprised at the news, but at the same time was also kind of happy, since he didn't know what it was like to have a family or even know he had a family in the first place. Though both Masaki and Issei were a bit shocked at how muscular Issei was despite being only 9 years old and was already well on his way of developing a six-pack abs. Issei did everything he could do in order to help return the favor to the Kurosaki, like helping Masakai with the cooking, which he enjoyed a lot. When they tried enrolling Issei in school, it showed that he was exceptionally well gifted, which Ddraig guessed it was probably the knowledge of his academics when he was in Kuo somewhat leaking out, trying to help, which made Ddraig, since he hoped this make his partner a lot smarter in the future than his usual headbutt straight into danger tactic. In the end both the school and parents just put Issei a grade above Ichigo, since he was the right age for it at the moment. Whenever Issei wasn't at school and helping around the house, Ddraig and Yamato train Issei in order to build his body. He could handle the power that's what was sealed inside him. Though whenever Issei summoned the boosted gear, both him and Ddraig noticed that it looked different. The gauntlet looked like a mixture of both demonic and dragon in nature, and the jewels were not only on the palm, but also on the fingers as well. Issei honestly thought it looked cool, while Ddraig believed that it must have been that strange orb that gave his host his spirit energy that made the change on how the boosted gear looked. When Issei went into his balance breaker, his armor also changed to that his armor was more form-fitting, as well being more dragonic in nature, and his wings seemed to be more organic than the metallic ones he was accustomed to. When Ddraig showed Yamato Issei's memories, he now understood why he asked them to be sealed. It was then Yamato fully agreed to Draig's terms of not unlocking Issei's memories until the time was right, since he also wanted his partner to lose control of his emotions and enter the Juggernaut drive. During the month helping train Issei learn how to control his spirit energy, as well learn how to use his sword on top of his new Soul Reaper powers. Yamato has grown a fond attachment to Issei. His ability to keep on pushing past his limits as well overcome impossible odds made him glad that he was Issei's Zanpakuto. He decided to make it his solemn vow to make sure Issei was always protected and that no one would lay a harmful finger on him and always be there for him whenever he needed it. Right now, Issei was in the middle of the forest since Yamato wanted him to try a technique that would help him greatly in using his sword, as well maybe using Ascalon. But what he didn't notice that a black cat was nearby who happened strolling around town until she noticed a strange boy with red hair and red eyes who had an unusual amount of spirit energy in the middle of the forest by himself. The cat decided to watch the young boy to see what he was doing. Issei, mind. Nervous? You really think I can do this, Yamato? Yamato Smirks. I have no doubted you've been able to do so in the mindscape, but we need to see if you are just as capable in the real world, plus skill will help you greatly in order for me to teach you how to use my blade correctly. Issei, mind. Determined. Okay, in that case here goes nothing. It was then took a deep breath and began to position his footing, which caught the cat's attention since if the cat thought it thought what Issei was doing then. But before cat could finish its thoughts, Issei disappeared and reappeared on top of a tree that was a few feet away from he was standing. Issei. Excited. Wow, I did it. My first flash step, this is so cool. On my first try as well. This greatly shocked the black cat since it didn't expect him to actually perform a flash step at such a young age, but shocked the cat even more that it was the boy's first time actually performing it. While Issei was celebrating being able to perform his real-life flash step, the black cat decided to introduce itself to the young red dragon. Issei. Curious, let's see if I can maybe in a continuous series. Smiles. Why hello there little boy. It was then Issei turned around to see a black cat with gold eyes. For some reason the name Kuroka came to Issei's mind, which made both Ddraig and Yamato panic a bit since the seal on Issei's memories was weakening a bit. Issei just then stared at the cat until he snapped back into reality and began to freak out while landing on his ass, trying to get back from the mysterious talking cat. Issei. Panic. Whoa. A talking cat. Tuckles. Yes, I am a cat, but my name is Iruchi. Now then please tell me your name and how did you perform a flash step without proper training? Issei. Surprised you know what a flash step is? Iruchi. Smirks. Why of course, despite my appearance I'm actually a master of flash step and is considered the fastest user ever. Issei. Excited with stars in his eyes. Really, can you teach me? Iruchi. Mind. Giggles. This one is a forward, isn't he? Serious though, just what is he? I can definitely say he's not all human, but he also has Soul Reaper powers as well. Maybe I can convince him to come with me to Kisuke's shop and see what we're dealing with. Smirks. I also have to admit he's pretty cute, which makes me kind of curious how he'll look when he's all grown up. Iruchi. Chuckles. I'll consider it only when you tell me your name and how you were able to perform that flash step. Issei. Nervous. Well, my name is Issei Kurosaki and I'm the adopted son of both Issei and Masaki Kurosaki. It was my sword spirit that taught me how to use the flash step. This shocked Iruchi greatly because she didn't expect Issei and Masaki to take in a child who wasn't even remotely human and with such a high amount of spirit energy, especially since they were trying to live normal human lives for their children. On top of that, this boy already unlocked his Zanpakuto as well as learned its name and said spirit was able to teach him how to use flash step. That's when she decided to take Issei to Kisuke's shop to see what was going on as well as ask Issei what he knew about the boy. Iruchi. Smiles. Well then Issei Kurosaki, I must admit that's actually pretty impressive since it usually takes someone years of practice to be able to properly perform a flash step. Smirks. You have talent kid, and if you follow me I'll help you learn how to master it along with the rest of his Soul Reaper powers. Issei. Nervous. I don't know, I was taught never to trust strangers, let alone a cat. Besides, how do I know you're not a hollow in disguise? Iruchi. Mind. Smirks. Smart one. Iruchi. Smirks. Oh, and here I thought you said you wanted me to teach you how to master flash step. Issei. Nervous. Well yeah, but I'm not that dumb to think I would blindly follow someone just because they say they could help me get stronger. Iruchi. Chuckles. You're smarter than you let on. In that case I will show you my true form to show you I'm not a hollow in disguise. It was then that Iruchi began to be surrounded by smoke and her body began to change into that of a human. When it was done as a slender and well-endowed woman of average height. She has dark skin, golden eyes, and black hair. Her hair is waist-length and kept in a ponytail with chin-length bangs framing the sides of her face. But Issei's face became redder than his hair when he noticed that Issei was completely naked and instinctively turned around while covering his face. Seeing this, Iruchi gained a mischievous smirk and decided to tease the young red dragon. Iruchi. Smirks mischievously. Oh, why are you turning away? You wanted to see if I was hollow or not. But here you are looking away. Come on, are you telling me are you really that shy? Issei. Completely red. Well of course I am, I'm literally 9 years old and here you are a perverted woman showing me your naked body when you're only supposed to show yourself like that in private and only with the person that you love or married to. Iruchi. Feigns innocence while hugging Issei from behind and pressing her breasts on his back. Oh no, and now that you've seen my naked body I'll never get married now, you'll have to take responsibility and marry me when you grow up. Smirks mischievously. But hey, at least when you're all grown up you get to marry a gorgeous woman like me. Issei. Red from embarrassment. Out of all the possible flash stepmasters, I got the one who was possibly the most perverted out of all of them. Iruchi. Grinning while poking his cheek. Ah, don't act like that, trust me, in a few years you'll be really interested in girls and with a cute face like that you'll have girls falling for you in no time. Issei. Sighs, can you please just turn back, Yuruchi, a beautiful woman such as yourself should not be exposed like this, and if people were to see they would get the wrong idea. Yuruchi was honestly a bit surprised at the maturity in the child's voice, but also blushed a bit when he called her beautiful as well, on how muscular Issei's back was despite only being 9 years old. Nonetheless, she collected herself and compiled with Issei and returned back to her cat form. Yuruchi, mind. Blushes slightly. He's quite muscular for a boy his age. Just what kind of training did get himself into? Yuruchi coughs into her paw. In any case, are you still interested in coming with me so that we could start your training? Issei sighs, I would, but I don't want to worry family in wondering where I am. Yuruchi smiles, don't worry, the person that you're about to meet is actually a good acquaintance of Issei Kurosaki, so there's no need to worry. Issei raises an eyebrow, I'm helping on good terms, right? Yuruchi, mind. Smirks, my, you're really smart for a kid your age, aren't you? Makes me wonder how many more surprises you have in store for us. Yuruchi smiles, I assure you that he and your adoptive father are definitely on good terms, now then come along. Yamato serious, go with her partner. Issei, mind. Curious, are you sure, Yamato? Yamato nods, yes, I don't sense any form of deceit from her, and what she's saying is true, then this could really help speed up your progress if it was just me and Ddraig here. Ddraig nods, I agree with Yamato, partner also, at least this way we can also hopefully spend more time training with draconic abilities. Issei, mind. Nods, okay then let's do this. Yuruchi curious, coming. Issei serious, yes, sorry I was talking to my sword spirit, please lead the way. Yuruchi mind. Curious, he can talk to his sword spirit through a mental link. Even most captains have trouble performing such a skill. Issei and his sword spirit truly trust each other. It was then Issei followed Yuruchi followed towards near the downtown district of Karakura town until reached what seemed to be a 2-floor shop that had a sign say Urahara shop. Once Issei and Yuruchi were inside, they were met with a tall, lean man with light skin and gray eyes. His hair is messy and light blonde, with strands framing the sides of the face and hanging between his eyes, and he has chin stubble. He wears a dark green shikishima without an undershirt. Over this, he wears a black haori, which sports a white diamond pattern along its bottom half, reminiscent of an inverted captain's haori. He wears a jetta and a striped dark green and white bucket hat. The man was surprised since he did recognize the cat. He was unfamiliar with the boy, but what caught his attention was that he wasn't human and had an abundance of spirit energy. Smiles, Yuruchi, you're back. How long has it been? Who is this boy you brought with you? Issei bows nervously, my name is Issei Kurosaki, and I just have one question. Curious, Issei sweat drops while pointing at Yuruchi, please tell me you're not a pervert like her. That was when the man burst out laughing since he already guessed what Yuruchi did to this kid. But he was also surprised that Issei and Masaki had another kid, but he looks nothing like either of them. He made a mental note to call Issei about this kid as soon as possible, since there was something about him that seemed bizarre. Tuckles, my goodness Yuruchi, I didn't think you would be into younger guys, this poor boy. Yuruchi smirks, he said he wouldn't come with me until I proved to him I wasn't some hollow in disguise, it's not my fault he didn't believe me at first. Issei sweat drops, yeah, but you didn't have to prove it to me by exposing yourself in your birthday suit. Yuruchi smirks, well, it was the only thing I could think of to help prove my point, though I am curious how you weren't surprised I was a woman. Issei blinks, oh that's because of your scent. Yuruchi curious, my her scent. Issei nods, yup, every creature whether be beast or human, they have a unique scent that signifies if they are male or female. Even if someone would dress as the opposite sex or have a sex change operation, I could what gender they originally were. Smiles, well that's certainly interesting to say the least. Well Issei, my name is Kisuke Urahara, and I'm the owner of this shop. I'm also a friend of your dad by the way. Issei smiles, nice to meet you Mr. Urahara sir. Yuruchi serious, and he's not actually Issei and Masaki's kid, he's adopted. Kisuke curious, you're adopted? Issei sad, and yes, you see, about a month ago I woke up at the park with no memories of who I am. It was then Ms. Kurosaki brought me to her house, and when they found out that I had nowhere else to go, they decided to adopt me. Kisuke mind. Shocked, that sounds like the same time when Hejioku started acting up. That would mean that this boy was the cause of that huge wave of energy and why the Hejioku left its containment. Yuruchi serious, the reason why I brought him Kisuke is because I saw him perform a flash step on his first try too. On top of that, it seems he is developing his Soul Reaper powers, since he could already speak to his sword spirit just through thought. This shocked Kisuke to a whole another level since this kid was only 9 years old and was already developing his Soul Reaper powers at such an early age. As on top of being able to perform such high-level technique and skill that would take most Soul Reapers years to master. Kisuke definitely needed to keep a close eye on this boy to see what he's truly capable of. Kisuke. Serious, I see. Smiles. In that case, Issei, you would follow me inside for some tea while discussing what to do next, and I'll call your father in the meantime. Issei. Nervous. Okay. It was then Issei, Yuruchi, and Kisuke went into the back of the store and all sat down to have some tea. While that was going on, Kisuke called Issei and told them that Issei was at his shop and that Yuruchi brought him here, in which he responded that he would be on his way since he wanted to be there to figure what Issei truly was. It was then they were joined by Tessai, who is a tall, muscular, lightly tan-skinned man. His hair is cornrowed and he has a large handlebar mustache which is connected to his long sideburns. He wears a pair of rectangular-shaped glasses. His attire consists of a white muscle shirt with regular pants and a blue apron. He was an employee here at the shop, as well as a childhood friend of both Kisuke and Yuruchi. A few minutes later, Issei arrived to see what was going on. Issei. Serious. Oh Kisuke, what do you think? Kisuke. Thinking him. Curious. Issei, can you summon your Zanpakuto? Issei. Nods yes. Curious. Huh. Smiles. Okay. Everyone was confused on why Issei was acting. He was talking to someone else, but then he brought out his hand and called out the name of his sword. Issei. Serious, come to me, Yamato. It was then a bright red light engulfed the room, and when it died down, Issei was holding a beautiful katana, with the blade being a captivating blood crimson. But what shocked everyone was that Issei pointed the sword to the spot next and began to concentrate. Issei. Serious, manifest. It was then the spirit energy of the blade began to glow, and a small wind formed, and next to Issei was a tall handsome young man with snow-white hair slicked back. He had blood-red eyes similar to Issei, but his sclera was pitch black. He wore a long black coat with red outlines on it, and underneath it, he was wearing a black sleeveless zippered turtleneck beneath his midnight blue formal vest. He also wears charcoal gray fingerless gloves, black pants, and black combat boots. Everyone was now even beyond shocked that Issei was able to manifest his Zanpakuto in its spirit form, which takes Soul Reapers years to master, as well as the requirement for a Soul Reaper's Zanpakuto to achieve Bankai status, which is also required to become captain level. Here was this boy, not even 10 years old, able to pull off such a feat with no problem, though everyone was on edge when the sword spirit had hollow eyes which indicated that Issei could be a visor. It was then the sword spirit took next to Issei in order to protect its wielder if it needed to, and thus began to speak. Yamato. Serious. So what is it that you want from my partner here? Kisuke. Serious. We just want to know if Issei is considered a threat or not. This made Issei a bit scared because all he wanted was peace and quiet. He didn't want to start any trouble. Issei, seeing this, knew that Issei wasn't a threat. He was just a child who was just giving powers beyond his imagination, though he couldn't blame Kisuke for asking, since it could happen in the future. Yamato. Serious. You have nothing to worry about. All my host wants is to live in peace and quiet as well as getting stronger. Issei. Curious. Why does he want to get stronger? Yamato. Serious. It's more of a must than a want in this case. You see, my partner was born with an immeasurable amount of spirit energy, but it was too much to handle, since his body is not strong enough yet to handle it. As such, the other spirit living inside Issei had to seal away a majority of that power until his body was strong enough to handle it. Even now Issei is trying his best to hold in the spirit energy that he has now. This shocked everyone but also proved Kisuke theory, and that the Heijoku gave Issei here not only Soul Reaper powers, but also Hollow powers as well. But how much spirit energy it gave Issei, it's hard to tell. Though the aspect that there was another soul residing within Issei made everyone curious, on top of the fact that even though Issei was leaking out a lot of spirit energy was impressive, only to find out that he's been trying to hold back was astonishing. Issei. Curious. Can you release your spirit energy, please? Issei. Nervous. Are you sure? Issei. Smiles. It's okay, son, despite our looks being actually pretty strong, and I'm sure we can handle it. Issei. Nervous. Hand on shoulder. Huh? Yamato. Smiles. It's okay, Issei. If anything happens, I'll help you reel it back in, okay? Issei. Nods. Okay. It was then Issei then closed his eyes and took a deep breath, and when let it out, everyone except for Issei and Yamato were on the floor struggling to get up. Some of them even had trouble trying to breathe. Issei. Struggling. The spiritual pressure. Yuruchi. Struggling. It's probably higher than the head captain's. Kisuke. Struggling. This kind of spiritual pressure is someone who belongs to the royal guard. Issei. Struggling, and to think he's only a child. As everyone was struggling to get their bearings, the only thought that they all had in their mind was that Issei had more spirit energy locked away. If Kisuke had to make a guess, then if Issei were to fully master his spirit energy, then he would either be on par with the leader of the royal guard, or maybe even the Soul King himself, or maybe even beyond that. But what shocked everyone even more was when they looked at Issei, they saw that his spirit energy was taking on a shape. The energy took the form of a crimson dragon with blood-red eyes as well as black wings. Seeing this, Yamato decided to tell Issei to reel it back in. Yamato. Serious, okay, that's enough, reel it back in. It was then Issei then breathed in as well as reeling in the spirit that he released. When it was done, everyone had to take an extra minute to breath and process what they just felt and witnessed. It was then Kisuke then decided to ask Issei the question that everyone was thinking. Kisuke. Serious, Issei, just what are you? This got Issei scared and nervous because he was afraid of what everyone would do if they found out that he was a dragon, let alone a devil. He didn't want everyone to hate him or think of him as a monster. Despite being a short time, he really enjoyed living with the Kurosaki family, and it didn't want it to end just because of who he is. Issei saw this and could tell that he knows they already see Issei differently due to his unholy amount of spirit energy, as well as being able to do things that would take most Soul Reapers years to master. He then put on a fatherly smile to help ease his son's worries. Issei. Smiles Issei. Issei. Nervous, yes. Issei. Smiles, can you please tell us what you are? Issei. Scared, but all of you will think of me differently or might even try to attack me. I don't want all of you to hate me just because of what I am. Everyone could see the fear in Issei's eyes and all felt kind of bad, but if they wanted them to trust Issei, they needed to know exactly what he was in order to help him or maybe understand just how powerful he was about to become. It was then Issei came next to Issei and gave him a firm hug to let him know that everything will be alright. Issei. Smiles, we won't hate you or try to hurt you for who you are, son, we promise. We know that you're scared and that you feel like you can't trust anyone about who you are. But if you want us to trust you, you need to let us in on who you are. Issei. Nervous, but Ddraig. Serious, dude, partner. Issei. Mind. Confused, Ddraig, are you sure? I thought you said I should keep my race a secret. Ddraig. Serious, I did, but since none of them will take no for an answer, it seems we have no other choice. Besides, we knew this would happen eventually. Just tell them that you're a dragon, but still keep you being a devil, as well as the sacred gear is secret for now, since we don't want to everyone, okay? Issei. Mind. Nods, okay, Ddraig. Issei. Breaths in nervously, I'm actually a dragon. Everyone in the room was in disbelief in what Issei just said who he was. Yamato was the only one who wasn't surprised, since he and Ddraig had this talk before, and both agreed that this was the right course of action for Issei's sake for the time being. Noticing that everyone didn't believe him, Issei sprouted out his draconic wings and tail, which were mostly blood crimson, but had parts of jet black on it. He also grew 2 crimson horns on his head, and parts of his skin turned into scales which had the same color as his wings and tail. Everyone couldn't help but look at awe at the beauty of Issei's scales. Each of them were like gems and looked like they could take on the hardest forms of attacks with almost little to no difficulty whatsoever. Issei. Shocked, so you're actually a dragon, amazing. Issei. Smiles, well Issei, you are a boy definitely full of surprises. Irichi. Smirks, I'll say. Kisuke. Smiles, well Issei, thank you for at least trusting us with this secret of yours, and in return we'll help you train your new Soul Reaper powers. Issei. Hopeful, really? Kisuke. Smiles, of course, you need help controlling all that spirit energy, and since most of us were Captain Class Soul Reapers, I think we can definitely help you. Issei. Bows, gratefully thank you for helping me, everyone. Kisuke. Mind. Smiles, this kid has a good heart and he could be the trump card we're looking for in order to hopefully take down Aizen once for all. Time skip. 1 year later. After that, everyone in Urahara's shop including Issei decided to start training Issei on working on both developing his soul powers, while Ddraig would train both in secret and in his mindscape in order to master his draconic abilities as well as his sacred gear. It was decided that every day after school and all day on weekends, Issei would come here in order to help to train his Soul Reaper powers, and the story for anyone who asked, mainly Ichigo, Yuzu, and Karen, was that Issei is going to a different dojo after school. This Kyuke would help him control his spirit energy as well some sword techniques, while Yarusi would teach Issei how to master Flash Step as promised, but as well as learning hand-to-hand combat, Tessai decided to chip in and would teach Issei Kido, since a part of him was curious of what would happen if a dragon were to cast Kido spells. Yamato insisted on being Issei's sword instructor since the abilities of his Zanpakuto were unique and that in order for him to use his sword properly in battle. Issei asked Issei to not tell this to Ichigo, Yuzu, and Karen since they are not ready for this life and want them to have a normal life, in which Issei nodded in agreement. When Issei's training started, they were all surprised on how well Issei was able to pick up on some of the things they taught him. Issei took his training very seriously since he wanted to be the strongest, but as for the reason he wasn't entirely sure himself, in which he just believed that it was his draconic nature slowly manifesting. Issei noticed how Issei would be different from other Soul Reapers, where he wouldn't need to leave his physical body in order to truly use his Soul Reaper powers, as well as the fact his Soul Reaper uniform was different from other Soul Reapers. Everyone could only have one thought in their mind, and that was that Issei was seriously becoming one heck of a monster when he grew up. Thanks to Yoriuchi, who, despite how their first meeting went, Issei saw her as a fun but sometimes perverted older sister, got a better grip in the art of shunpo. Almost to the point where Issei could dive into the more advanced techniques, and over the past year Yoriuchi has started to form a strong bond with Issei, even though she thinks it's just her trying to be a older sister figure, but in truth she might have started to grow romantic feelings for the young dragon and was curious what kind of man he would grow up to be. Over the course of the year, Yoriuchi had accidentally left a few opportunities for Issei to peek at her, in which Issei completely ignored and focused on his training, and when Ddraig asked why he didn't do it, Issei simply replied that refused to be a pervert, and even though he acknowledges that he will eventually have an interest in girls, he will not be a complete perv about it, since he would not benefit from it, as well as hinder growth in the long run. This resulted in Ddraig crying in absolute joy, and even began praying to the dragon gods that this personality sticks even when gets his memories. He even cried more when he realized that not only was his host was probably gonna be on par with the top 10 strongest when completed his training, but when they return to their universe, he can possibly say goodbye to that embarrassing title as the Oppai Dragon. Everyone were extremely surprised when Issei Zanpakuto's special ability was to be able to cut through anything, even the fabric of space itself, and thanks to Issei's learning flash step, Yamato was able to properly how to use the style that was best suited for Issei, as well for him being able to use both swords to its maximum potential, which was called Dark Slayer style. At first Issei would be completely exhausted on how to use Dark Slayer, but after a few months Issei was starting to get used to the techniques behind it, but was still a few years away from completely mastering it. The same thing happened with Issei when learning how to use Kido from Tessai, which didn't surprise Ddraig or Yamato, since they knew that Issei didn't have a talent for magic beforehand, but after a little while, Issei was able grasp the nature of Kido, and was able to learn some of the spells provided. During the past year Issei has come to see both Kisuke and Tessai as uncles, in which both of them were happy to hear. Kisuke was trying to create a device in which it can help Issei in both hiding his spirit energy, as well as containing it, so that he wouldn't have to focus so much on suppressing it. He had the concept down, but he needed a material that would be strong enough to hold it. When Issei noticed this, he offered Kisuke his scales in hopes that it could help. This somewhat worried Kisuke, because he didn't want Issei to rip off his skin, in which Issei just laughed and said it was alright, and that his scales grow back within a day. This shocked Kisuke, and when Issei showed him a handful of his dragon scales that he previously shedded from his skin, this helped Kisuke greatly in being able to create something for Issei to help with his spirit energy. Curious, he asked Tessai to take one of Issei's scale and have it appraised by someone, and when Tessai returned later that night, it looked like his soul left his body. Kisuke, being curious on why Tessai was acting like this, he asked what happened, and Tessai could only do was just hand Kisuke a check which was worth $100,000. This caused Kisuke to have the exact same expression on his face just like Tessai, since the boy they were both training was essentially a walking money machine. They both made a mental note to probably open up a bank account for Issei for when he got older. Back in the Kurosaki household, Issei then began to warm up to the Kurosaki, and they did so in return, especially Ichigo, who saw Issei as the big brother he never had. Issei felt truly glad that he met the Kurosaki family, which brought Ddraig and Yamato comfort in knowing that their host finally understood what it was like to have a loving family that cared for him. But sadly that time was short-lived, as one day while Issei was still at Urahara's shop training, when he was notified that Misaki was killed while walking home with Ichigo. Issei, being in complete distraught since the only woman that he saw as a mother was killed, filled with so much grief he began to hello feed, which caused everyone to panic, especially Ddraig and Yamato, who noticed how the previous users of the boosted gear were trying to take advantage of the situation and trying to break the seals on Issei's memories. Thankfully Yamato was able to get through to Issei and get him to calm down, while Ddraig was thankfully able to keep the seal intact and reinforce it. Afterwards Issei fell into a minor depression, along with the rest of the Kurosaki family, mourning the loss of their mother-wife, but Issei couldn't allow himself to be brought down by grief. He did everything he could to help everyone to get back to normal, especially Ichigo, who out of everyone was the closest to Misaki, which eventually after a few months everyone slowly but surely somewhat got back on how they used to be. Issei was truly glad that Issei was here for them when they needed him most, and thanked his wife Spirit for bringing him into their lives. Issei then got back into his training, which made both Ddraig and Yamato proud that their host wasn't letting something like this rob him from enjoying life, as well as keep him from reaching his goal of becoming stronger. Everyone at Urahara's shop was also amazed on how resilient this child was and is able to get past his grief and move forwards towards a new day. It was then Yamato began to teach Issei how to control his holification, along with the new powers on top of it. Right now, Issei was in his mindscape since Ddraig told him that he had a new partner he wanted him to introduce. This was the soul fragment of Ddraig rival Albion, in which Ddraig explained that he was sleeping deep inside the sacred gear, but thanks to his training and his increase of both his spiritual and draconic energy, Issei was able to wake him up. Ddraig. Serious hello Albion. Albion. Serious Ddraig, what am I doing here? Ddraig. Sighs, well, since my partner had a piece of your sacred gear inside the boosted gear, which meant that a piece of your soul was sealed in here as well, but I believe in time your fragment will grow with the help of my current host, with both his spirit and draconic energy. Now the reason why I decided to bring my host here is because I thought you could teach him on how to use your abilities on top of boost. Albion. Serious I see, in that case very well, nice to meet you partner. I will teach you how to use my ability known as Divine Dividing, hopefully you'll be able to use it better than Volley. Issei. Confused, who's Volley? Albion. Confused Ddraig. Serious, I'll explain later, for now partner I believe it's time for you to learn Keto with Tessai. Issei. Smiles, okay, see you later guys. Once Issei left, Albion then began to look at Ddraig in a questioning manner on why his current host didn't recognize his original host's name. Albion. Curious, care to explain why Issei has his memory sealed and doesn't remember who Volley is? Ddraig. Sigh, sit down and listen, it's going to be a long story. That's it guys. Thanks for watching and supporting us. See you in the next part.